Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world and when you're watching this. I am going live on a Friday afternoon. It is the Friday after our Canada Day long weekend and after Independence Day's holiday. And I know that not a lot of people are spending their day on LinkedIn, but I had to come on here and share my thoughts after reading an article from the Globe and Mail. Um, so we need to talk about time theft. We need to talk about tracking time and how we measure work in this world of hybrid and remote work. I'm going to get there. First, let me start with my normal live video question, which is, let me see, what's making work awesome for you this week? Or what made work awesome for you this week? Since I'm here at the end of the week, I want to check in and say, hey, how awesome was work for you this week? Our mission at Blue Rebel Works is to improve people's lives by making work awesome. We will spend probably about a third of our life working. And I believe that that work should add value and meaning and connection to our lives rather than draining energy, draining our soul, almost literally out of us every single day that we work. So we spend a lot of time at work. Let's make it awesome. If you are an employer or a leader, I feel like we have a responsibility for ourselves and for the people that we work with to look for ways to improve work so that it is adding value to our lives. And so that's what Blue Rebel Works is all about. We provide leadership development and culture design to help organizations and leaders make work better. So today, I need to talk to you about an article that was in the Globe and Mail last week. And I am literally going to do a reaction video with you. I always thought a reaction video would be fun, but I thought I'd be doing it while playing a video game and like reacting to some of the scares and fights and things that I participate in video games. But today I'm doing a reaction video about an article in the Globe and Mail. And here it is. Let me share this with y'all. I am literally going to read the article and share sort of what my reaction, what my thoughts are in real time. I did skim the article last week. So thank you to Dee Boswell Buck for sending this article to me. Dee sent this article to me and I skimmed through it. And I have to be honest, two reactions. One, my heart literally, like I felt it hurting for people to think that this is something that is happening. The second one was blood boiling. So you're probably going to get a little bit of both as I actually read through the details of this article. So I'm going to read through the full article. I'm going to share my reactions as I read through and share some thoughts and tips maybe if they come up. I'm not totally sure what's all in here, but I'm going to just go for it and give you my live real-time reactions. And why don't I start by asking you though, does your organization track time? Now, before we jump into the article, there may be some types of work where you need to have someone on shift. You know, I think of things like retail. For sure, my background is retail and restaurants. Of course, you needed someone there to open the restaurant. You need someone there to serve your customers in the retail store. And that makes sense that there's like a shift and time. However, I'm not sure if y'all can hear the banging going on in the background. I have no AC. My AC is getting hooked up today. I'm getting a new air conditioner. And behind me, I have an oscillating fan that, yes, is wearing a sleep mask because doesn't your oscillating fan need to sleep as well? I actually do that to cover up the light when I'm sleeping in my room. Anyways, sorry about the noise. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay, does your organization track time? And I'm talking specifically to more of these like sort of more knowledge-based or kinds of work, whether you're working in tech or in any kind of administrative work, or almost most careers and positions, there should be some level, or there can be some level, other than like frontline work, of sort of hybrid and flexibility. And so I'm talking to those organizations that do have the opportunity for people to work from home. If during the pandemic people were sent home and got work done, I'm talking to you today. So this is the article that my friend and colleague Dee Boswell Buck sent me. It was in the Globe and Mail last week. It is called "How Cracking Down on Time Theft Affects Women at Work." And so I'm going to read through and I'm going to react. So here we go. 3 years after the COVID-19 outbreak, most companies have adopted a hybrid model of work as their baseline culture, meaning employees spend at least some time working from home. Okay, just that I need to pause for a second and say, yay, because this is something we've been talking about since I started my business 12 years ago, that there is no reason in the age of technology for people to have to go to work at a certain time every day, and for us all to be commuting, jamming up highways for those commuter hours and wasting time on the roads, and all of the not unsensible, nonsensical things that go along with that commute. So I'm just really happy that companies have woken up to the fact that people can get some work done at home. I am sorry that it took a pandemic to do that, but thank goodness most companies are allowing people to spend some time working from home. Okay, carrying on. Here's where it takes a dramatic turn to the negative. At the same time, some employers are becoming increasingly suspicious of just how much time their staff spends doing the work they're being paid for. Now, granted, people are paid on your paycheck. It probably says something like 37 and a half hours or whatever you're being paid for. But I personally cannot remember a time in my career, besides when I worked a retailer, restaurant, frontline sort of job, that I actually tracked hours. So um, just saying that, like, yes, my check said something about hours. We'll get into more about what that time meant in my world. But okay. By the way, if you're here live or in the replay, please let me know. Does your organization track time? Do you work hybrid? Like, what's your experience with some of this stuff as I'm going through? And as you hear what I'm saying about it, I would love to hear your reactions as well. And I'm just going to open the chat and check in. Oh, hello, Dee. I see. Thank you for joining. So, Dee, everyone check out Dee Boswell Buck. She is our digital marketing strategist. And so check in with her if you need help with your digital marketing. She is the one who shared this article with me, thinking that I would have something to say, and she was right. And hello, Carrie. Leadership lessons in the breath of the wild. Carrie, is that a thing that I don't know what it means? Let me know. And welcome. So good to see you. We also have someone whose name isn't showing up. And we have another. Yes, we do. Someone's tracking time. Oh no, LinkedIn user. I don't know why your name isn't here, but I'm sorry to hear that there is time tracking at your organization. And yes, Carrie is with an awesome organization called Axonify, and loose hybrid, no time tracking. They have a great culture, and great to hear that. And I see, sorry, that was a video game. Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm behind on my comments. Thanks, Gary. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled programming in this article. In January, a BC tribunal ordered an accountant to pay her former employer more than $2,600 after tracking software showed she engaged in time theft while working from home. Meanwhile, US tech giants such as Meta, Alphabet, and Amazon recently called workers back into the office, with Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg saying an internal analysis of employee performance data suggested that engineers working in person get more done. Okay, so that is actually perhaps an interesting thing, that getting more done. So they actually have data that says a certain group of employees is actually being more productive, perhaps, when they come into the office. Maybe if you're making a data-driven decision on productivity, that might be different. My problem comes when we are measuring productivity by time, because that is a fallacy. Productivity does not equal the time spent. That would be like if it takes you 3 hours to ice a cake, then you are more productive than the person who only takes half an hour to ice a cake. Makes no sense. Okay. So if there's actual data, and I also would say, like, engineers working in person get more done. First of all, is that every engineer? Because there's a lot of diversity as far as working styles, as far as cognitive diversity, like the way we're able to think and process information. I don't know that that means every engineer. What I would love to have seen Meta do instead is have people have targets for the work that they're getting done. And for some people, maybe it's engineers, that makes sense to come into work so they can be more productive and get it done in a better time. Anyways, more on that. Hi, Jeff. Yes, it is the old idea of button chair optics. In the age of technology, we can more easily evaluate performance based on outcomes. Yes, and this is where I think that measuring by time is like a cop-out for all of us managers or leaders if we don't want to do the hard work of figuring out what are the actual outcomes of the work, other than like I check my email and I go to work from 9 to 5 or something. So we need to move away from this, and we need to actually do the real work of what is the job. Hi, Greg. The good thing is there's lots of checks and balances to ensure the work is getting done and not so much time tracking. Yeah, please, like, get the work done. It doesn't matter what the time is. And I'm going to talk more about that. I see a lot of the sentiment for inexperienced leaders who don't know how to evaluate folk. Yes, like, it is really easy to just measure work by the time or by the break. I'm thinking back to a situation we were in one time. I was doing a courageous conversations workshop, and we were helping leaders to figure out what to say in their courageous conversations. And this one leader was talking about this person who they had approached to come back from break to work on the project they were working on. This was actually related in the media industry. They were actually editing movies for, so they have to do a certain number of scenes and things as they're meeting their timelines for the production. And so they were talking to this person about coming back from break to work on the scenes that they were working on. And the person wasn't coming back from break regularly enough. And I said, if they actually took those very structured, like 10-minute or 15-minute breaks and came back to work on time, would that actually solve the problem you're having with this employee? And when I asked that, the leader said, no, because they're just not focused on the work. They're not getting their scenes done no matter what their break is like. So what happens with inexperienced leaders is it's easy to see that, the break was 3 minutes longer than it was supposed to be. It's easy to go to kind of go after that, but we need to be clear about the work. And instead, that's a harder conversation about what is getting in the way of you actually completing this work. Okay, I'm never going to get through this article, but y'all have such great comments. Okay, Vanessa, hello, my friend. I agree, productivity does not equal the time spent. If people aren't meeting targets due to extrinsic factors like the recession, how do we help leaders avoid time tracking? If people aren't meeting targets due to extrinsic, so I'm thinking you might be relating this to sales targets, maybe. Um, and for sure, the recession might play a role in us not meeting maybe our revenue targets or that sort of thing. Mind you, I did have a discussion with a leader in a workshop earlier this week who was talking about like their targets are higher. There is some uncertainty in the world, and people on the team were really questioning whether these targets, like, complaining about the targets and the inability to meet them, and they're unrealistic and yada yada. And what happened was the leader turned that around on them and just said, okay, so what could we do to meet these targets? If we can't change the targets, because these have been set, we can't change the recession or talk of recession, what can we do? And it turns out the team started brainstorming different ways to go about their sales calls, different ways to go about all of their work. They ended up exceeding their targets in that quarter. So sometimes I think we put barriers in place because we think our circumstance dictates what our outcomes are going to be, and that's not true anyways. I see define productive. If, as your example suggests, it's about doing more, that's not about doing the baseline work that you're expected to do. If you do ice a cake in 3 hours and someone else can do it in 3 minutes, they're both getting the work done. But let me see what else is in this. But productivity is being defined as what the employees do with the extra time when the work is done. Yeah, so that is also an interesting thing because so I am a strong proponent of the results only work environment. Check out Jody Thompson and Culture RX to learn more about that. It's how we operate in my company, and it's how I was trained by Jody going back about, I don't know, 8 years or something, 8 years ago. And what happens in a results only work environment is we meet our results and we make sure that we're always growing, we're continuously improving, we're looking for ways to make the company better and to help the company achieve its strategy. And there's times when I am able to get my work done quicker. So I ice the cake in half an hour or an hour instead of 3. And guess what? I get to live. It's not about piling on more cakes. If I meet my target, it is about, though, checking the whole organization and going, do other people need help with their cakes? Is there something going on with my team member that they could use my help, because they're going to help me the next time I need help with my cakes because something's going on in my world. Anyways, cake is a weird example. Okay, let me dive back into this article. If the idea of time theft becomes a growing concern for employers, the resulting crackdowns around flexible and remote work could have troubling implications for all workers, with experts saying it could hit women hardest of all. So, okay, this is like, my heart hurts. I feel for this whole, like, I can't even imagine working in that kind of environment. And I want us to just think back to where the whole setup of work started. This whole idea decades and decades ago of like work happens from 9 to 5 in a place. And let's be honest, the people setting up those work environments were generally not the people having babies or taking care of children or the home. Right? Like, I'm generalizing, but like decades ago, these were men at the top of organizations making rules. And at that time, their wives were at home taking care of the kids and taking care of everything. And now we work in an environment where we have half of your workforce, and hopefully actually more than that, because there are more men who are taking on those responsibilities. But unfortunately, in general, a lot of women are still taking on more of the caregiving, more of the home, taking care of the home and everything outside of the work environment. So as soon as we place these 9 to 5 in an office restrictions, it is kind of discriminating against those people who do take on those roles. And I'm hoping that we get to a point in the world where all of that responsibility is shared equally, and in many families it is, and I love that. But unfortunately, it is generally women that get hit hardest by this, and we need to realize that that's because the rules were made by people that did not include them in making the rules. Okay, what is time theft? Samantha Seabrook, founder of Seabrook Workplace Law, says that time theft occurs when an employee evidences to the employer that they've worked a certain amount of hours, but they haven't actually worked those hours. Oh my God, this is where blood boiling and heartbreaking happens again to me. This could include taking extra long breaks, logging in late or logging off early, or using work hours to complete household tasks. God forbid you need a bio break that is extra long. God forbid you have a child to pick up because they had a problem at school, or an aging parent that you need to take to an appointment, or anything like that, that might take you away for a short period of time and allow you to come back to your work when you're done that thing. The other thing I think to remember is, in most organizations, senior leaders actually do have full flexibility. I can't imagine someone questioning the CEO if they had to leave early to go visit an aging parent in a long-term care home, or to head to the cottage early on a Friday or whatever. No one's questioning a senior leader. This is, for some reason, we think senior people are able to have some freedom and other people are not. Again, get clear about the work. Okay. While the concept isn't unique to the hybrid work era, it's found new relevance as we spend more time working at home and as companies develop new and improved ways to track that work. These methods can include installing time tracking software on company devices such as phones and laptops, or management checking to see if an employee is active on Slack or responds to emails promptly through the day. I'm just going to talk about that last one. Honestly, if you're responding too quickly to emails, you are not getting your work done unless your whole job is to respond to emails. And maybe in some customer service facing roles, that is your job. But what about deep work? How, for years and years and years, we have, when it comes to prioritization, time management, productivity, we have told people, do not check your email every time an email comes through. Be able to set aside time to do deep thinking work. How are people being productive if they have to respond to emails or Slack messages promptly throughout the day? This is so counterproductive to me. This makes no sense at all, if we actually care about the work and not about controlling people. Blood boiling moment, just a second. Okay. According to Samana Jetty, founder and CEO of Jetty Wellness, a consulting company that helps workplaces develop solutions to prevent burnout, this type of micromanaging can particularly affect women employees. Employers are coming down hard on women, says Ms. Jetty. What I'm generally hearing is women saying, I'm having a lot of responsibility as a mom, as a caregiver to my elderly parents, and I'm having to constantly prove to my employer that I'm working and doing my job. So just picture that added stress, right? Picture that added stress. And there have been studies that people were working more hours when they were working remotely through the pandemic because they were worried that their manager would think they were working less hours, and they wanted to be proving that they were on all the time and responding. The stress, the anxiety, we are living in a world where anxiety, depression, stress levels are up by 50 to 80% year over year, year after year. This is so toxic to think that we are causing this, even more when we do things like this. And I'm just checking in with the comments. Okay, yes, Carrie says, so gross. I'm thinking that was when I mentioned these time tracking and the responding promptly that came up. Romola, thank you. Hello. Trust issues. That's what all these methods stem from. Trust and control, right? Everyone, we do have a human need for control. The problem is control over other people is not healthy, right? Let everyone control their autonomy, their freedom, their time, and get their work done. But you need to know what the work is. The work is not responding to emails promptly for most of us. The work is not, I show up from 9 to 5. The work is actually, what are you responsible for getting done? Okay, back to the article. Now, that type of hyper-suspicious, highly monitored work environment can take a toll on employees' mental health, she says. Yeah, no kidding. You're feeling a loss of autonomy. You're feeling that your values are misaligned. You're feeling like you're not a good worker, like you're not being trusted. These kinds of stress-related mental health challenges can even impact a person's physical health, says Ms. Jetty. For example, chronic stress and depression have been linked to conditions such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and sleep issues. Yes, when we are in that state of high cortisol levels, that highly kind of vigilant nature for long periods of time, it is going to lead to health issues. So please, again, I go back to, as an employer myself and as a leader, I feel like I have some responsibility for the people that work with me to help them have great lives, right? Like, work is such a huge part of our life. Why do we have to make it so toxic? Okay. Why flexibility makes a difference. When Gina Chang Campbell got into a traumatic motorcycle accident years ago, she knew her road to recovery would include a change in her work life. I'm sorry to hear that. Unable to commute long distances or commit to work-related travel on a regular basis, being newly disabled meant that Dr. Chang Campbell, who works as a solution lead for a global company, would have to work out some kind of accommodation with her employer. So she and her employer agreed on a new arrangement where she would only go into the office as needed, while her colleagues had a required minimum of in-office days. Side note, why don't we just have everyone work wherever they need to get the work done, and it doesn't, do we need a required minimum of in-office days? I'm not saying never get together. I do think there is value in getting together, in sometimes in collaborating together, and sometimes just to like get to build trust and relationship together. But I don't know that we need a required minimum every week. Okay, and because meetings are often hosted across multiple time zones, her employer has allowed Dr. Chang Campbell and her colleagues some freedom in setting their schedules rather than demanding a straightforward 9 to 5. My teammates and colleagues are not in North America. We're scattered on 5 continents, so working hours can be kind of dispersed, Dr. Chang Campbell says. There are inherent demands with that kind of schedule, but with the right kind of leadership, there's also inherent flexibility. So yes, this is such the reality for so many of us today. We have colleagues around the world, and yet for some reason we think that 9 to 5 Eastern Standard Time, or wherever your time zone is, makes the most sense. It doesn't make sense. How are we communicating most effectively when we have these global workforces, global customers? Flexibility only makes sense. When is it best for you to get that work done, or to communicate with that customer, or to collaborate with your team? And give flexibility in organizing and controlling that. While her own experience was a positive one, Dr. Chang Campbell says she's seen how a lack of trust can worsen the very issues that necessitated an accommodation to begin with. I've seen where people will take substantial pay cuts, even in this kind of inflationary economy, to move to an employer where they feel like that trust exists, and where they don't feel like every morning it's, oh my gosh, who's going to be watching what time I log on and off today? Who do I have to explain which medical professional I had to go see for that hour? She says, oh my God, like, people feel this way. Now, it's been a while since I've been in the corporate world, but I can't flip and imagine. Just also, like, just with medical appointments, I remember talking to people in different organizations, more traditional organizations than those that I worked for, who would have a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment for like an hour or something, and they'd have to take a full vacation day just to take that hour to go to their appointment, which never made sense to me, because there's a couple of things that happen. One is just you lose that day of productivity. 2 is they're now wasting a vacation day to do an appointment. 3 is they're often working when they get home from the appointment, because it's not like that was planned for a vacation or anything. They still have work to do. It just made no sense. And I feel like that's probably still happening in some organizations, which still makes no sense. But like, having to justify where you're going, what doctor you're seeing. We're adults. Come on, get your work done. Avoiding trouble with the clock. While having your employer check on you constantly shouldn't be the norm, Ms. Seabrook says it's good practice for everyone to know when work is performed and how much work is performed during a given workday. If an individual does find themselves in a position where their employer is either investigating a claim of time theft or taking legal action against them, Ms. Seabrook says they should immediately reach out to a lawyer. This also makes my heart hurt that our immediate reaction is always legal action, that the employer is immediately going to time theft. Like, what kind of words are we using? Really, are you stealing time? No, you like had a longer bathroom break or you went to a medical appointment. This whole how much work is performed during a given workday, I think we should be realistic about how much work is reasonable and like maybe a bit of a stretch for our roles, but like give people flexibility to maybe like get more work done on one day so that they can have a breather the next day, or maybe they know they have something that's going to be extra stressful outside of work on a day, so they want to get more work done on another day because they know it's going to be harder for them to do that on a day. Like, let's not, unless you work in a factory where you have to do a certain number of your part of the line has to be done in a certain way each day so that everyone's part is done. There's not a lot of roles that every day has the exact amount of work. So that seems a little prescriptive to me. Hire a lawyer to have the information that the employer and the employee has gathered about the work they've done and the allegations against them reviewed from a legal perspective to determine the scope of their case. In a case where the employee is actually terminated, Ms. Seabrook's recommendation is to go see an employment lawyer as soon as possible before signing anything. Absolutely. And by the way, yes, if your employer is talking about time theft or anything like that, for sure, get a lawyer. It all makes sense in those cases. I just wish that that's not our first go-to. How about having a coaching and objective setting conversation with our employees? That is a little harder for us as managers. Ultimately, though, fixing the problem comes back to creating a healthy work culture where trust is embedded in the company's DNA. If my child was sick in daycare and I had to pick them up, it should be okay to text your boss and let them know, hey, I'm stepping out for a couple of hours. I've got to pick up my child and I'll get this done for you by 8 p.m. tonight. For many women, flexibility is key to job satisfaction. A study from January by Abacus Data of more than 1,300 working Canadian adults found that 72% of women consider work from home flexibility as extremely or quite important. In fact, 42% of women said they would give up a higher salary if it meant that they could work from home as much as they like. So just think about that. Unless you think for some reason that women don't provide value in the workplace, then you should just go back to the 1800s. You're really, really hurting half of your workplace by not providing flexibility. Also, a June report by TD Economics found that mothers of young children are joining the workforce at higher rates since the start of the pandemic, thanks in part to more flexible work environments. What a great opportunity. And while micromanaging bosses can make life tough on an employee, Dr. Chang Campbell points out that the trust she received from her employer improved quality of life, not just for her, but for her family as well. My kids and my husband immediately said, "You're so much more present," she says. My 8-year-old son would say, "I'm so glad mommy's here to walk into the bus stop for school every day." So can I just mention that at many of my recent speaking events, we've talked about like, what did working from home allow you to do that you weren't able to do in the past? And we heard everything from being able to actually work out every day because I'm saving that 3 hours in the commute, right? Being able to pick up my children from school. We've heard deeper things like actually having a relationship with my children. So these are things that are improving the quality of life for that person, and generational, like it's generational positive impact when we give people flexibility to control their schedule and their time and be able to have a life and work. I just really want you to think about that if you are tracking time. While employers may worry that flexible work environments will somehow be somehow damaging to workers' productivity. Dr. Chan Campbell says that in her experience, it's just the opposite. I don't think enough is understood about how people work to their potential when they feel like they're in a safe and trusting environment. If you've ever been in an environment where you didn't feel trusted, I think you can relate to this, because the toll it takes, the tax that it is on your productivity, on your confidence, on like so many things, the amount of time we spend ruminating and worrying about whether we're trusted, worrying about like managing the politics of what's going on when we don't feel trusted, it is toxic and terrible. That feeling alone makes me a better and more productive employee. Okay, I'm just checking to see if I missed some comments here. As a workplace harassment investigator and HR consultant, my advice is to keep a log of the work done after hours. Oh, I guess that's the world we live in. I guess if you work in an environment where your time is what matters, which is, again, it's toxic and stupid. Because in most jobs, it's not the amount of time you are logged in, reading your emails, whatever, that makes a difference. It's whether you got the outcomes you need that makes a difference. It's sad that employers sometimes use hours as an operational issue for letting someone go. It definitely is. My heart hurts. My heart hurts for those employees. My heart hurts for those managers, because you have an opportunity to make a positive difference in people's lives by just getting really clear about what people are responsible for, what a great job looks like, what will help them, like what would exceeding expectations look like in their role in their actual work, and stopping focusing on time and butts and seats and how quickly I'm answering emails. These things just don't make sense, and they create stress, they create toxicity, they create that vigilant kind of behavior for people, they create politics, and they take away from people's productivity and from their lives. So I will link to the article in case you want to read it yourself. I would love to hear more thoughts. I'll link to the article in the comments. And in the meantime, until we talk again, I just want to encourage you to find a way to make work awesome. We've got it. For me, it is Friday. I'm actually going to head not out of work. I'm staying in my home. I'm going to head out to the backyard though, a little early today, because I got my work done and because my time doesn't matter. And I hope my team is doing the same, because it's a beautiful day. So please enjoy your day. Find a way to make work awesome. Find a way to get clear about what the outcomes of your work and what the work actually is, so that you don't have to focus on time, so that you can manage what really matters, and have an awesome day.